The morning sky over Earth was clear and peaceful, a typical start to another day. People all around the globe went about their lives, unaware of the storm that was brewing. Governments were busy, but there was no sign of the danger lurking in the stars. Then, the message came. A sudden, chilling broadcast was transmitted to every screen on Earth. It was a warning from the Galactic Empire, a powerful and ruthless force that ruled vast parts of the galaxy. The voice was cold, emotionless, as it echoed through the airwaves. To the inhabitants of Earth, we, the Galactic Empire, have decided to take your planet. Your resources will be ours. Your resistance is futile. Prepare for your annexation. Your world will soon be ours. The message stunned the world. The Galactic Empire? The very name was known in whispers among the stars, feared by those who knew of its destructive reach. Earth, a small, relatively unknown planet, was targeted by this powerful force. Humanity had never imagined that it would be in the sights of such a force. Panic spread quickly. Governments scrambled to understand the implications. Some believed it was a hoax, but the sheer presence of the Empire's ships in the sky confirmed that it was not. Giant starships hovered above major cities, casting long shadows on the ground. They were impossible to ignore. On the streets, people stared up at the sky, their faces a mix of awe and terror. Children clung to their parents while adults tried to make sense of the sudden disaster. What was the Galactic Empire planning? Why had they chosen Earth? These questions raced through the minds of everyone, but no one had answers. Marcus, a military officer with years of experience, watched the news unfold. He was stationed in a remote military base and had been trained for combat situations, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The magnitude of what was happening hit him hard. Earth was about to face an enemy unlike anything it had ever seen. His phone buzzed, and when he picked it up, it was a message. The warning, a voice just for him. You have only one chance. Fight, now, or face annihilation. The message was brief, but it carried weight. Marcus had seen enough to know that this was no idle threat. The Empire would not make idle threats. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and only the people of Earth could decide whether they would fight or surrender. As panic set in, world leaders met urgently to discuss the next steps. The meeting was chaotic, filled with arguments and confusion. Some suggested negotiating with the Empire, hoping to avoid war, but others insisted on preparing for the worst. Earth had to unite or face complete destruction. Marcus knew one thing: he had to act fast. This was not the time for hesitation. He called together a team of military strategists, scientists, and engineers to begin preparations for war. They didn't know much about their enemy, but they would need every advantage they could get. As the day went on, the threat grew more real. The Galactic Empire was already making its move. Earth had only one chance to prepare, and they could not afford to waste it. The clock was ticking. The world was in chaos. In every corner of Earth, people were glued to their screens, watching in disbelief as the Galactic Empire's warships hovered above major cities. Massive ships, larger than anything humanity had ever seen, filled the skies. Their advanced technology was unlike anything Earth had. The ships shimmered with an eerie glow, their dark, menacing shapes blocking out the sun. Governments scrambled to respond. The United Nations held an emergency meeting, but it was clear that the different nations could not agree on a unified plan. Some countries called for negotiations, offering peace in exchange for resources, while others argued for immediate military action. But in truth, no one knew what could stop the Empire. Earth had no experience with intergalactic warfare, and their weapons were no match for the Empire's power. At the heart of the chaos was Marcus, the decorated military officer who had received the mysterious warning. He stood in a war room with a team of the best military minds on Earth. They had gathered to discuss the next steps, but there was a sense of urgency in the air that made everything feel more serious than any battle they had ever faced. We're outgunned, outmatched, one of the generals said, pacing the room. Their ships are beyond anything we can imagine. What makes us think we can stop them? Marcus stood silent for a moment before speaking. We don't know everything about them yet, but we do know one thing. They've made a mistake by underestimating us. We have to fight not because we know we can win, but because we have no other choice." The room went quiet. The generals exchanged uneasy glances. They had never faced an enemy so powerful, so overwhelming. But Marcus was right. Earth had no other choice. If they did nothing, the Empire would take everything. But even with this determination, there was a deeper uncertainty. What could they possibly do against an enemy with the ability to destroy entire cities with a single blast? How could Earth stand against a force that controlled a galaxy? The next few days were spent preparing in any way they could. The military worked around the clock to fortify defenses. Earth's best scientists were brought in to study the Empire's technology. With every passing hour, the situation seemed more hopeless, but Marcus and his team held on to the hope that if they could just learn more, they could find a weakness. But time was running out. The Empire made no move to attack, and Earth's people were growing more and more fearful. It was a waiting game, and every day that passed felt like a countdown to something terrible. Marcus had a feeling that this was only the beginning. The Empire's next move would be decisive, and Earth needed to be ready. It wasn't just about winning, it was about survival. If they didn't act soon, they would lose everything. As the global leaders argued over what to do next, Marcus looked to the stars above, wondering how long they had before the Empire struck, and more importantly, how far they could push back against an enemy that had the power to wipe them out in the blink of an eye. Omini. As Earth's leaders and military continued to prepare for the inevitable invasion, a strange event took place that no one could have predicted. A small, unmarked spaceship appeared in the sky, drifting toward Earth at an astonishing speed. It was unlike anything Earth scientists had ever seen, and for a moment there was a surge of panic. Was this another ship from the Galactic Empire? Or perhaps a new weapon they hadn't encountered yet? But when the ship landed, it wasn't the Empire that emerged. Instead, a lone figure stepped out. The alien was tall, with greenish-blue skin and striking angular features. His eyes, though different from human eyes, were filled with wisdom and sadness. He was dressed in simple clothing that looked ancient, and as he stepped onto the Earth's soil, he looked around in awe, taking in the strange, vibrant planet. Marcus, still reeling from the constant pressure of preparing for war, was the first to approach the alien. His team had been tracking the ship's arrival, and they'd quickly gathered at the landing site. As Marcus stepped forward, the alien spoke, his voice calm and steady. "I come not as an enemy, but as a warning," the alien said. His accent was strange, but his words were clear. "I am Arlan, a former soldier of the Galactic Empire. I have defected." The humans surrounding him stared in disbelief. How could someone from the Empire be here to help them? What did this alien want? And why was he offering his assistance? Arlan continued, his voice growing more urgent. "The Empire does not stop at planets or systems. It consumes everything in its path. They are coming for you, Earth. I have seen their plans. I can help you fight them." Marcus, cautious but intrigued, asked, "Why help us? What's in it for you?" Arlan paused, clearly struggling with his own inner conflict. "I was once a soldier in the Empire, but I realized the truth. The Empire is a machine, a ruthless force that destroys everything in its wake. I could no longer stand by and watch. I defected when I saw that they were planning to conquer your world. I owe it to myself and to you to make it right." The people of Earth, especially the military leaders, were hesitant. Could they really trust an alien who had once served the enemy? Was this some kind of trap? But Marcus could see something. In Arlan's eyes, guilt, determination, and sincerity. It seemed genuine, but Marcus knew they had no time for mistakes. The Empire was closing in fast. "We don't have much time," Marcus said, making the decision. "If what you're saying is true, we need to act quickly. You'll help us, but we need answers. How can we fight back?" Arlan nodded gravely, his face hardening. "I can teach you about their technology, their weaknesses, but you must be ready for anything. The Empire won't give up easily, and they will hunt me down. You will be targeted as well. As Arlen shared vital information about the Empire's weapons, tactics, and weaknesses, Marcus realized the gravity of their situation. This was their one chance, and they had to take it. The Earth's forces would be trained using this alien knowledge, but the road ahead was dangerous. The Empire would not stop until Earth was under their control, and with Arlen's help, humanity would have its first real chance to fight back. The unexpected ally had arrived, but now the real battle was just beginning. With Arlen's help, Earth's military had begun to make preparations that seemed impossible just days before. The knowledge he brought from the Galactic Empire proved invaluable. As the days passed, Marcus and his team worked tirelessly, using the aliens' insights to build defenses that could stand against the overwhelming might of the Empire. The first challenge was the Empire's ships. They were massive, towering, war vessels equipped with weapons capable of destroying cities in seconds. Earth's existing defense systems were hopelessly outdated in comparison. However, Arlen had shared one critical piece of information. While the Empire's ships were almost invulnerable to conventional weapons, they had a weak spot: their energy cores. If damaged, the entire ship could be disabled, rendering it powerless. Marcus and his team focused on developing weapons capable of targeting these cores. They used the best Earth technology available, but it wasn't enough. The scientists, alongside Arlen, worked day and night to improve their designs. Earth's engineers reverse-engineered alien technology, learning to build advanced energy shields and electromagnetic disruptors that could disable the Empire's ships. It was an exhausting process, but the thought of standing a chance against the invaders drove everyone forward. In addition to the new weapons, the global military forces were being trained in new strategies. They didn't have the same advanced training as Arlen, but they had something more: a fierce determination to defend their planet. The world's leaders, now unified, made the decision to call up every available person to serve. Young men and women from all corners of the Earth were trained in combat, forced to set aside their differences and join together to face the common enemy. The fear of the unknown was palpable, but it was also replaced by a growing sense of unity. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and now Earth was ready to prove it. But time was running out. The Empire's warships were getting closer, their shadow growing darker in the skies. Earth had only weeks to prepare. Marcus found himself coordinating a massive global operation, watching as nations, once divided, now worked as one. There was no room for failure. If they didn't succeed, the Empire would conquer them without mercy. The training was grueling, but Marcus saw the change in his people. Soldiers and civilians alike had taken up the fight, determined to protect their homes and loved ones. Even children were helping, preparing supplies and providing food for the soldiers. It was clear that Earth was no longer the same planet it had been. The human spirit had been awakened, and now, the world stood together against the greatest threat it had ever faced. As the final preparations were made, Marcus gathered his team. They stood in a makeshift command center, surrounded by maps and charts. The room was filled with the hum of activity, a nervous energy hanging in the air. Arlen stood nearby, ready to assist whenever needed. He had become a key part of Earth's defenses, but the risks were still high. If the Empire learned of his defection, they would stop at nothing to destroy him. Marcus turned to his team, his voice steady despite the weight of the situation. "We've come this far. Now we stand together. We fight for Earth." The world held its breath as the final countdown began. The Empire was closing in, but humanity was ready. The day arrived sooner than expected. Earth's defenses were ready, but the tension in the air was unbearable. For days, the world had been preparing for the inevitable. The military forces were in place, weapons were primed, and people were beginning to realize that their lives might never be the same again. On the ground, Marcus stood at the command center, staring at the large screens that displayed real-time images of the Empire's ships. The fleet hovered just beyond Earth's atmosphere, their massive size casting long shadows across the planet. It was as if they were waiting for the perfect moment to strike, a reminder of just how powerful the invaders truly were. The silence was broken by the sound of a loud beep. One of the officers at the command center spoke urgently. "Sir, the Empire is making its move." The tension in the room grew. It wasn't a surprise. They all knew this moment was coming. But no one was truly prepared for the scale of what would happen next. The Empire's first strike wasn't just a single attack. It was a series of devastating blows aimed at Earth's most important cities. The first wave of attacks came from the Empire's warships, their energy beams cutting through the atmosphere with terrifying precision. Major cities once bustling with life were instantly struck by massive energy blasts. Buildings crumbled, fires erupted, and the sky darkened with smoke and dust. People screamed as the once unshakable cities were reduced to rubble in a matter of seconds. Marcus watched in horror as the images of destruction flashed across the screen. His heart sank, but his mind remained sharp. They had prepared for this. They had to fight back or Earth would be lost. "Activate the defense systems," Marcus barked, his voice steady despite the panic swirling in his chest. He knew the stakes. This was their first real test, and they could not afford to lose. "Focus fire on their energy cores." Across the globe, military forces activated Earth's new defense weapons. Satellites armed with high-powered energy. Beams were fired at the approaching ships, targeting their weak points as Arlen had taught them. But the Empire's shields were powerful, and only a few of the attacks made it through. The warships retaliated, firing back with deadly force. On the ground, the people of Earth fought back in every way they could. Soldiers moved into action, using Earth's best weapons to target the Empire's forces. Fighter jets scrambled into the sky, engaging the enemy ships with all the firepower they could muster. It was chaotic, a battle for survival against an enemy that had underestimated the resilience of the human race. Marcus stood at the command center, watching as the battle unfolded. His mind raced, but he kept his focus on the task at hand. Earth was fighting back, and that alone was a victory. They were showing the Empire that they would not give up easily. The battle raged on, and while the damage to Earth was significant, humanity's response had proven something important. The Empire could be challenged. It wasn't over yet. There was still hope. As the first wave of attacks began to subside, Marcus turned to his team. "This is just the beginning. We need to keep fighting. This isn't over yet." The war had started, but it was far from finished. The fight for Earth had just begun. The days following the Empire's first strike were filled with devastation and determination. Earth had suffered major losses, but it was far from defeated. Cities had been reduced to rubble, and millions of lives had been lost. Yet in the midst of the destruction, something unexpected happened. Humanity refused to back down. Marcus stood at the command center, watching the global maps and communications coming in from around the world. The Empire's ships continued to hover over Earth, but the people of Earth were not broken. The military had mobilized, and despite the overwhelming power of the invaders, Earth's forces were regrouping. The battle was far from over. Arlan, standing by Marcus's side, was quiet but focused. He had warned Earth about the Empire's strength, but he had also shared their weaknesses. With each passing day, the humans were adapting, learning, and finding ways to strike back. "It's not over yet," Marcus said, his voice low but full of resolve. "We've lost too much to let them win now. We have to keep pushing." Arlen nodded. "They may have the power, but they don't understand what Earth's people are capable of. You fight for more than just survival. You fight for each other. That's what makes you stronger than any weapon." Marcus thought about that as he watched the progress reports. Across the world, nations that had once been divided now fought together as one. Earth's forces had made significant progress, not just with weapons but with strategy. The Empire's ships were powerful, but they were not invincible. The Empire had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, and that mistake was starting to show. The breakthrough came when a group of Earth's best scientists, working alongside Arlen, discovered a way to temporarily disrupt the Empire's shields. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it was enough to give Earth's military the chance to strike back. The scientists had managed to create a weapon that could penetrate the Empire's defenses, even if only for a short time. With this new technology, The humans launched their counteroffensive. The next wave of attacks was unlike anything Earth had seen before. Fighter jets, now equipped with new energy disruptors, soared into the sky, targeting the Empire's ships. The new weapon wasn't enough to destroy the ships, but it was enough to weaken their shields and slow their advance. For the first time since the Empire's arrival, Earth's forces gained the upper hand. Ships were taken down, and small victories began to add up. The Empire's fleet, once unstoppable, was starting to show signs of struggle. Marcus felt a spark of hope as the battle raged on. It wasn't a victory yet, but it was a turning point. The Empire had believed that Earth would fall without a fight, but now they were learning just how wrong they had been. Humanity had proven that it would not go down without a fight. The invaders had underestimated the strength of the human spirit, and that was a mistake they would not recover from. As the battle continued, Marcus knew that Earth was on the path to victory. But the Empire wouldn't give up easily. They would fight back harder, and the final clash was still ahead. But for now, the tide had turned, and humanity was more determined than ever to defend their planet. The momentum from Earth's recent victories was palpable. After weeks of relentless fighting, the human forces had managed to push the Empire's ships back, causing significant damage to their fleet. The Empire had underestimated Earth, and now the world was united in its resolve to protect the planet. But just when it seemed like the tides were turning in humanity's favor, a dark cloud of betrayal loomed over the battlefield. Marcus stood in the command center, going over the latest reports with his team. The news was good. Earth's forces were holding their own. Yet something didn't feel right. There had been rumors of internal division within Earth's leadership, and Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the situation than met the eye. Suddenly, a call came through from one of Earth's top officials, General Thompson. His face was stern and his voice lacked the usual confidence. "Marcus, we need to talk. There's something you should know." Marcus's heart skipped a beat. "What's going on?" "Meet me in the secure chamber. It's urgent." When Marcus arrived at the designated room, the atmosphere was thick with tension. General Thompson stood with a group of high-ranking officials, all of whom seemed uneasy. Marcus couldn't understand what was happening, but his instincts told him that something was terribly wrong. "Marcus, we've made a decision," General Thompson began, his eyes flickering nervously. "We've opened talks with the Empire." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the stomach. "What are you talking about? We're winning. We can't negotiate with them now." Thompson held up his hand to calm him. "It's not what you think. The negotiations are being handled by a select group of leaders. They believe that surrendering is the only way to save what's left of Earth. They're offering the Empire a chance to take control of the planet in exchange for peace." Marcus felt his blood run cold. The betrayal was clear. A portion of Earth's leadership had given up, choosing to sacrifice the rest of humanity rather than continue the fight. "But you can't just give in to them," Marcus exclaimed. "We can win this. We're already pushing them back. The people are fighting for their homes, their families." The room was silent. Some of the officials looked away, uncomfortable, while others simply nodded in agreement with the decision. It was clear that they had made up their minds. Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. The very people he had trusted had decided to hand Earth over to the Empire. His gut twisted with anger, and the words came out before he could stop them. "Do you have any idea what you're doing?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. "The Empire won't stop with Earth. They'll move on to the next planet, and then the next. This is about more than just us. It's about the entire galaxy. If you surrender now, you're signing humanity's death sentence." The room fell into silence. Marcus could see the hesitation in their eyes, but it wasn't enough. The decision had already been made. Then, just as Marcus thought he had no more allies, Arlan entered the room. His alien face was grim, but his voice was calm. "They have no idea what they're doing," he said softly. "The Empire will not honor a peace treaty. They will take everything and leave nothing in their wake. This is their pattern. I've seen it before." The words rang out, cutting through the tension. Arlan's experience and the warning in his voice reminded everyone in the room of the true nature of the Empire. They could not bargain with a force that only understood power. There would be no peace, only destruction. Marcus turned to the We have one last chance to stop this. If we don't fight back now, it will be too late. The Empire doesn't negotiate. They conquer. There was a long silence, and then one by one, the officials began to lower their heads. Some looked, ashamed, others defeated. Marcus knew this was the moment that would define Earth's future. With Arlen's warning still fresh in their minds, the room began to shift. The traitors could no longer hide their intentions. Earth had only one option left: to fight until the end. And with that, Marcus and his team began to make the final preparations. The fight was far from over, but now more than ever humanity knew the true stakes. The future of Earth depended on their willingness to stand against the Empire, no matter the cost. The time had come. Earth's military, now united in their cause, stood ready for the ultimate battle. For weeks they had been preparing for this day, gathering every weapon, every resource, and every bit of courage they had. The Empire's ships, massive and imposing, hovered above, casting long, menacing shadows across the planet. The final showdown would decide the fate of humanity. Marcus stood in the command center, his eyes scanning the battle plans. His team had worked tirelessly, and the world was now counting on them. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and now they were about to find out just how strong Earth could be. The weapons they had developed with Arlan's help had already proven effective, but this was the final test. Would Earth's forces be able to take down the Empire's warships before it was too late? Beside Marcus, Arlen stood, his face filled with a quiet intensity. The alien had been a crucial ally in the fight, but even he knew that this battle would be the true test. The Empire would not go down without a fight, and Earth's forces had to be prepared for everything. "We've learned a lot, Marcus," Arlen said, his voice steady. "But the real test is now. You have one shot. Make it count." Marcus nodded, his jaw tightening. "We will." Across the world, soldiers stood at attention, their hearts heavy with the weight of what was to come. Families huddled together, watching the sky as the final moments approached. Earth had fought hard, and now it would either rise or fall. No one knew how long they had, but everyone knew what they had to do. The first wave of attacks came from the Empire's warships, their deadly energy beams tearing through the atmosphere. Earth's forces responded quickly, firing their disruptor weapons at the enemy fleet. The battle was fierce, with explosions lighting up the sky as Earth's ships and the Empire's clashed. It was a sight like no other. Humanity's forces, fighting back with everything they had, determined not to let their world fall. The Empire's fleet retaliated with overwhelming force. Earth's military was outmatched in terms of size and firepower, but they had one advantage. They were fighting for their homes, for their families, for the future of their planet. The Empire may have had the weapons, but Earth had something far stronger: the will to survive. As the battle raged on, Marcus could see the Empire's ships beginning to falter. The energy disruptors had weakened their shields, and Earth's forces were targeting the Empire's energy cores. Slowly, but surely, the tide was turning. The Empire's once impenetrable warships were now vulnerable, and Earth's forces were closing in. "We can do this," Marcus muttered to himself as he watched the battle unfold. "We have to." But just as it seemed like Earth's victory was within reach, the Empire launched a final, desperate counterattack. A massive ship, larger than any they had seen before, descended from the depths of space. It was a weapon of unimaginable power, capable of wiping out entire cities in an instant. "This is it," Marcus said, his voice filled with determination. "We take it down now." The final moments of the battle were a blur of chaos. Earth's forces threw everything they had at the Empire's flagship. The energy beams, the disruptors, the missiles, they all converged on the massive ship, pounding it with relentless force. For a moment, it seemed like nothing would be enough. But then, with one final, devastating strike, the flagship's energy core exploded. The Empire's forces began to retreat, their once mighty fleet crumbling before Earth's united front. The battle was won. As the dust settled and the skies cleared, Marcus stood in awe of what had just happened. Earth had done it. Against all odds, humanity had fought back and won. The Empire had been defeated, and Earth was safe, for now. But, as the world celebrated, Marcus knew one thing. This victory was just the beginning. The galaxy would never forget what Earth had done. And Earth, now more united than ever, would stand ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The fight for the future had just begun. The aftermath of the final battle was nothing short of astonishing. Earth had fought valiantly, and against all odds, humanity had managed to push back the mighty Galactic Empire. The skies, once darkened by the shadows of enemy warships, were now clear, the sun shining over a planet that had, just days ago, seemed doomed. But while Earth celebrated its hard-won victory, the war was far from over. The Empire, humiliated and defeated, had to make a decision: either retreat or send a final deadly message to the humans who had dared defy them. In the command center, Marcus stood with Arlen, his mind racing. The battle had ended, but the cost had been high. Cities were in ruins and millions of lives had been lost. But the victory meant that Earth would survive, and that was something no one had ever truly believed was possible. As Marcus looked at the reports, he saw a disturbing pattern. The Empire was regrouping. Despite the damage to their fleet, they still had resources in other parts of the galaxy, and they were not known for giving up easily. Earth might have won this battle, but the war was far from finished. Arlen stepped forward, his face grim. "Marcus, there's something you need to understand. The Empire doesn't know how to lose. They will send another fleet. They will not stop until they get what they want." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "We've beaten them once. We can do it again." Arlen shook his head. "It's not that simple. The Empire's pride is too strong. If they are allowed to rebuild, they will come back stronger than before. You need to strike now while they are still weak." The urgency in Arlen's voice was clear. Marcus turned to his team, making a quick decision. "We can't afford to wait. Earth's forces are stronger now. We need to go on the offensive. We have to finish this." The next few days were filled with frantic planning. Earth's military was regrouping, and with Arlen's help, they began to prepare for a final strike against the remnants of the Empire's fleet. The enemy had scattered across various parts of the galaxy, but Earth's new technologies and battle strategies would give them the edge. With every passing hour, the tension mounted. Earth's forces launched a series of coordinated strikes against the Empire's remaining strongholds, targeting key systems and weakening their control over the galaxy. The Empire's once imposing presence was now crumbling, with their fleet scattered and their influence waning. On the battlefield, Earth's forces pushed forward, determined to bring an end to the war once and for all. Marcus led the charge, his resolve stronger than ever. Arlen, though an outsider in this conflict, fought alongside the humans, his knowledge of the Empire's weaknesses proving invaluable. But even as victory seemed certain, the Empire's leaders made one last, desperate attempt to regain control. They deployed their final weapon, a superweapon capable of wiping out entire planets. It was a last-ditch effort to strike fear into the hearts of Earth's forces and to take down humanity once and for all. However, Earth was ready. Using the knowledge Arlen had provided and their own advancements, humanity was able to disable the superweapon before it could be activated. The Empire's final blow had failed. With the superweapon disabled and the remnants of the Empire's forces in retreat, Earth's forces secured their victory. The Empire had collapsed. Earth was free. As the dust settled, Marcus and Arlen stood side by side, watching the stars above. The war had been long and painful, but Earth had emerged victorious. Marcus knew that this battle would go down in history as a turning point, not just for Earth, but for the galaxy. The victory was sweet, but Marcus knew this was only the beginning. Earth had proven its strength, and the galaxy would now know that humanity would never back down from a fight. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Earth had earned its place in the stars. The war was over. The Galactic Empire, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, had been brought to its knees. Earth had fought back with everything. They had won. The surviving ships of the Empire retreated into the distant corners of space, leaving behind a broken and defeated empire. Earth had emerged victorious, but the cost was high. The planet had been forever changed. Marcus stood at the top of a ruined skyscraper in what was once a thriving city. The skyline was now a mix of destruction and rebuilding. There were no more Empire warships hanging in the sky, no more explosions lighting up the night. For the first time in months, there was silence. But it wasn't a peaceful silence. It was the kind of silence that came after a storm had passed, a silence full of both relief and sorrow. Humanity had lost much in the war. Cities were in ruins, and millions of people had died. The scars of the conflict would never truly fade. Yet there was hope. Earth was still standing. Humanity had fought for their survival, and now they could rebuild. They could rise from the ashes. Arlen stood beside Marcus, his gaze focused on the horizon. The alien had been with Earth every step of the way, helping them fight the Empire. His knowledge had been crucial, and he had become more than just an ally. He had become a friend. "We did it," Marcus said quietly, looking at the desolate landscape. Arlen nodded. "But the cost was high. The galaxy is not the same anymore." Marcus turned to him. "No, it's not. But we are. Humanity has proven that we won't just lie down and die. We can fight, and we can win." There was a long pause as both men reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The war had been brutal, and the stakes had been higher than anyone could have imagined. But they had succeeded. Earth was free, and for the first time in history, humanity had earned the respect of the galaxy. As they watched the workers in the distance begin to clear the debris and rebuild, Marcus felt a sense of pride he hadn't felt before. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. Humanity had to rebuild its world, its cities, its lives. But now they had something they had never had before: hope. "Do you think the Empire will ever return?" Marcus asked, looking at Arlan. Arlan was quiet for a moment before replying. "The Empire may be gone, but there will always be other threats. There will always be people who want to take what isn't theirs. But I believe in humanity. You proved that you can face the impossible and win. That's something no one can take away from you." Marcus nodded. He knew Arlen was right. The galaxy was vast, and there would always be challenges. But humanity had shown its true strength. Earth had united, fought, and prevailed. There was no going back. The future was uncertain, but it was theirs to shape. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the ruins, Marcus took a deep breath. He knew the world would never be the same, but he was ready for whatever came next. Earth had proven that it could survive anything. And now, with the support of the galaxy's new allies, humanity would rise stronger than ever before. The dawn of a new era had begun, and Earth would never be the same again. Mini for Mini.